Hello Norwalk, this is Mayor Rick Ramirez. We were here at the Norwalk City Hall lawn for our Mayor's Inspirational Breakfast on Monday, October 10th. It was a great event. It's great to see our community come together. We had such an amazing time of networking and being a positive role model for our community.
Okay, we're going to be interactive here, okay? I am a teacher by trade and by passion, so I miss the classroom, but I look forward to every opportunity I get to teach, every opportunity I get to preach, because it's the greatest honor in the world, truly is. And so I might ask you, clap once if you hear me. Ooh, come on now. Clap once if you hear me. I better see school board members give me some effort. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you're with me. That means you understand what I'm saying, okay? So we're going to get going. I want to start off by thanking everyone present this morning. I want to thank everyone for just this opportunity. You know, this is a long-standing tradition in the city of Norwalk, the city that we love and we call home. And it's exciting to be out here on this city lawn. It brings back so many memories of the carnivals I would attend, my friends riding our bikes on this stage when we shouldn't have been. You know, just doing all kinds of stuff, riding our bikes through Patterson Square and up to Norwalk Square. This city has been home to me my entire life, and it's all I've ever known. And it's beautiful to see where we've come and where we're heading. So this morning, I want to thank Mayor Rick Ramirez for this opportunity and this honor. I truly appreciate you and all your kind words and what you're doing for the city. I'd like to thank the City Council, all the council members that supported this event. I'd like to thank Door of Hope, my district leadership for supporting me. I'd like to thank all those involved, all the workers that made this possible, to all those that served the food and set up this event. Thank you so much for everything that you do. You know, and I want to thank all those that sponsored student tables. It's so important that we invest in our youth. Would you agree with me? Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you're with me. All right, and I want to thank you for those who took the time this morning to be here with us today. So unity builds community. That's the theme of this event. You know, unity building community. I can't tell you how much this theme is needed, and I can't tell you how much we need to keep talking about unity, especially in a time where our nation is so polarized, a time where we are so divided. Do we need to reflect upon unity and get back to being a true community, not just nationwide, but within our communities, within the communities we love, our cities, our schools, and our homes? You know, unity is defined as a state of being. It's defined as united as a whole. But what unites us? Have you ever asked that question? In our indifferences, what unites us? In our polarized beliefs, what unites us? What drives us to come together despite our indifferences? Because at the end of the day, if we're going to unite, we need a driver. We need something we're working for, something we're working towards, something to get behind and to be united in. Mayor Ramirez, unity builds community, yes?
Yes.
The word community has many definitions. Now I'm going to teach you something because I'm a teacher. Clap once if you hear me. The word community has many definitions, okay? But the definition that struck me most, that resonated with my heart when I was preparing for this message, is joint ownership or liability. Let that sink in. Joint ownership or joint liability. If you take a look around us today and you scan the room, you're going to find city officials, you'll find law enforcement officers, first responders, educators, business owners, city workers, residents of Norwalk, but most importantly, you're going to see our students, our youth, our future. And no one category I mentioned can build this community on their own. No one category here, no one group of people regardless of their titles and their position, regardless of your education and what you've accomplished or what you think you've accomplished, can build this community on their own. Norwalk Sheriff and Public Safety cannot keep the city of Norwalk safe on their own. They need their citizens to respond. Norwalk, Lamar Unified, or Little Lake City School District cannot shape the future of our children on their own. They need everybody here in this joint effort. The City Council cannot make this city thrive on their own. They need every person represented here today. Nor can I, as a principal, take Norwalk High School to great heights without the support of my staff and my students and the community that we serve. Clap once if you hear me. Within this shared space that we call our city, within this shared space that we call our community, I'm a firm believer that every person has a place at the table. Everybody has a voice to be heard. Everybody has a responsibility to act and play their part in everything that we do and everything that we thrive for and strive towards. Every single person here brings their own lived experiences. Everybody has their talents and their strengths. Everybody has their gifts, and everybody here, starting with me, has our areas of needs and our struggles. Would you agree with me? Every person here has the purpose and potential and a promise that resides over their lives. We need one another. We need one another regardless of our cultural identifiers, whether that be religious beliefs, political parties, race, gender, ethnicity, and so on. Our cultural identifiers cannot define us nor divide us. We cannot use these things to be separated. In our indifferences, we have to find the commonalities that brings us together. If we are truly striving for a community, Mayor, we need to understand the importance of unity. And I'm going to be honest here, okay? The importance of unity is so vital. And not just the importance of unity, not just understanding the definition, but the sacrifices we must take as individuals and as a collective to truly reach this thing we call unity. In order to reach unity, we have to make sacrifices for the greater good. The changes we need to make in order to strive for unity, whether it's our egos, whether it's our pride, whether it's our positionality, whether it's our titles, they oftentimes get in the way and block the path. I have learned in my life, in my short 40 years of life, that often what is invisible blocks our vision. Often what is invisible hinders our sight. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you're with me. In my life, in my work, I have found that the invisible things we fight against often get in the way of the goals we're striving for. The changes we need to make are so very important. So if we know that we're thriving for unity, if we know we're striving to get unity, and we know we want to build community, like I said, there has to be a driver, there has to be a purpose, there has to be something in which it is so very important that we are going to put that at the centerpiece of our goal and our actions and our sacrifices. So then, who or what is so important that we're willing to set aside our egos? Who or what is so important that we're willing to set aside our pride, our positionality, our titles? What is so valuable that is worth so much that we could set aside our indifferences? What can possibly shift the mindset? What can possibly shift the culture? It's the students. It's every young person sitting here today. Every student that we sponsored. Every student, whether they're from Norwalk, La Mirada, Little Lake City, regardless of where they come from. Every child, every student, every youth, and every young adult is worth getting behind. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you agree with me. It is our future. It is the only hope we have for a brighter future, a better community, and a more compassionate and kind world. It is our youth that must be our driving force in this joint effort for unity in order to build community. How many times have we heard that African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child? Would you agree with me here? How many times have we repeated that as educators? How many times have we repeated that as public servants? It takes a village to raise a child. You could travel throughout Africa and some will say a child belongs not to one parent or not to one home. Others will say whosoever is not taught by the mother will be taught by the world, will be taught by our community, will be taught by our first responders, will be taught by our city workers, will be taught by our community workers if they are not taught at home. Where individuals lack, especially children, that is our part as public servants to step in and meet them in the gap, to fight for them when they don't have a voice of their own, to stand up for them when no one else is standing up for them. I have seen many things in my life and in my 20 years of education on my path from a paraeducator and a football coach to a teacher, an administrator, and now a principal. Because if we do not go above and beyond for our children, if we do not stand in the gap for our youth, believe me, the streets will step in. And I don't know about you, but I have lost far too many lives to the streets and to drug addiction. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you're with me. We have lost too many beautiful lives full of promise and purpose to the streets, alcohol, drug addiction, toxic relationships, looking for love in all the wrong places. We've lost too many young people full of promise to the streets that are ready to eat them up and devour them, to gang activity. I grew up in this city, and this city is not perfect, but it is beautiful. But I've lost many, and it hurts, and I think about I'll try not to get emotional. But those that know me and heard me speak, know I do. Quietly, Lonnie. She's my student. I love her. I go talk to the softball girls sometimes. When you're passionate about something, your emotions stir up. And it's hard to control them when you love something so much. You know, if we don't step in and take a joint ownership in what we're doing, then we have to look at the backside of that definition, which is joint liability. And are we going to look ourselves in the mirror and be liable for the times we could have stepped in, for the times we could have spoke up, and for the times we could have taken action? Students, you listen to me clear, okay? I want you to listen to this because this is specifically for you. We can't do it without you. Oftentimes we dismiss the young too many times, as if you don't have responsibilities, as if you don't have your lived experiences, as if you're not navigating your own lives and responsibilities. But I'm going to tell you what, you students here, you have more influence than you would possibly ever acknowledge. You have more potential to change a life than you think. You have more power residing in you to make a difference in this world. I'm not sitting here and wasting your time because I do not believe in wasting your time. Your time is too precious. It's too valuable. You have more ability to change this world than any age group that's represented under that tent. This is your time. This is your opportunity to stand in the gap. You have the ability to let gossip stop at your ear. You have the ability to not get caught up in the he said, she said nonsense. You have the ability to speak up for someone when they don't have a voice. You have the ability to go to your counselor when someone shares with you that they have ideations of taking their lives. You have that responsibility and that ability to be someone for someone that needs you. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you're with me. Now I'm going to wind this down because I don't want to bore you to death. Growing up, I faced many challenges in my life, many in which I will not share, because there's a lot of people that lack the true concept of grace and how people can truly change. But I'm not ashamed of where I come from. I'm not proud of the mistakes I've made in life, but I've learned from them, and I won't deny them. For a long time, I looked for purpose. I looked for belonging in my life. Raised by a single mother. She's right there. Raised by a single mother, looking for the love of a father that I did not have, that I did not know. And even though I told myself it didn't matter, deep down inside it did. From the age of 5 to 12, I lost my 2 aunts in a horrible accident. My grandfather to lung cancer. The only man that ever resembled the father of my life, which was my Uncle Angel. At the age of 8, when he died, something inside me died. I lost a part of me. And at 12, my grandmother passed. I was sitting by her bedside when she took her last breath. And I'll be honest with you, at that time, my brothers were gangbanging and running these streets, lost to the streets, lost to everything that consumed them, and I was on the same path. And at that time, I remember how defeated I felt in the 6th grade. And looking back, I could only imagine how my mother felt and how lost and how defeated she felt as a mother and as a daughter and as a sister and as an individual. And I'm not telling you this in search of pity. I'm not sharing this with you because I'm looking for you to pity me, okay? Nor am I using these issues in my life as an excuse for the poor choices I made along the way. Because deep down inside, we all know between right and wrong. There's something inside of us. There's this moral compass that tells us when we're heading down the wrong path. But it's our pride that gets in the way. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice with me. Can one of you beautiful people in uniform bring me one of those handkerchiefs? I don't know who owns these, but you're not getting this one back. Unless you want it. I'll be auctioning it off at the end of the event. Raise money for the city. All right. And you know, I'm sharing this because in the time I've spent in education and the things I've seen on the streets, I can't tell you the times I looked to the sky, even in my young adulthood, in my early 20s, and asked God why. Why do you allow these things to happen? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why do I not have this person? Why did this happen? Why do I continue to screw up? Why do I continue to make mistakes? Despite of the people that help me, why do I continue to kind of go against the tide instead of swimming with it? I have seen the hurt and the anger. I have seen the confusion and the hopelessness in too many lives of young people that I've worked with and people that I grew up with. And for this reason, in my leadership, I will remain student-driven in everything that I do, and I will never apologize for it. And I will do so until I breathe the last breath on earth and I bow before my Father. Everything I do is student-driven and for the students and for the future generations, because I understand the struggles that they face. And I struggled not just throughout my childhood. I struggled all the way up to my mid-20s. And it wasn't until I was 25 did this broken person transform into a work in progress. 25 years old, coaching at Santa Fe High School, finishing my bachelor's degree, entering into a credential program. And even then, I still battled with the person I knew I should be and the person that I was. I lived 2 lives for many years. And I couldn't find that true purpose. I couldn't find that driver to finally change me and give me that full 360 I needed in my life. Just behind Target right there lies Patterson Elementary School, right off of Crew Street. I grew up in that area my whole life. It's where my grandparents' home was when they moved to the city of Norwalk in 1953 from the great fields of Delano in search for a better life. And just behind Target, the school I attended, Patterson Elementary, I was transferred out in the 3rd grade for all my behaviors and all my incidents. And then again, I was kicked out in the 6th. And I ended up at a school in Whittier that has since now been closed and should have been condemned years ago. And I was at that school with all kinds of troubled kids. All kinds of kids lost, without hope, and hooked on drugs at a very young age. Young kids that were addicted to the streets, victims of their circumstances. And many of them, they didn't make it. After leaving the 6th grade, I made it to Lakeside Middle School. And that's where I attended middle school. The problems were still there. I still had to navigate through my issues. Clap once if you hear me. Clap twice if you're with me. I made it through Lakeside, barely, with the help of some very important people. And I got to Santa Fe High School, where my mom had graduated from in the 60s. And at Santa Fe High School, the problems didn't stop. The problems were there. They just kept growing. And I managed to graduate high school despite all the behaviors, despite all the referrals, despite all the days I spent in in-house suspension, and despite all the suspensions I had. In fact, I got to the point where they had too many suspensions, they had to stop counting. I'm not kidding. I stopped getting sent to in-house suspension. They would just send me to Coach Malstead's office, and I spent the day there. Right, Coach Cantu, with Malstead and Roddy. It got to the point where my guidance counselor gave up on me, and I would just go straight to the dean of students. And it was Margie Moriarty that had a big part in changing my life. And there came a time in my life when I almost lost it all. Everything I had worked for, everything that I have sacrificed for. I had already met my was then girlfriend, but now my beautiful wife, Claudia. She gave me purpose. But despite of all the good things I had in life, I still struggled with the person that I was and the person I knew I should be. And at 25, I gave my life to God. And I didn't change over. That's worth clapping for. And I didn't change overnight, nor was I perfect the next day. But I became a work in progress. I went from a young man that was broken for much of his life to a work in progress with purpose. And it was from that day on that I started to reflect upon all that I had been lacking in life. And I realized, as I would always focus on what I lacked, I didn't realize all that I had been given. When I thought about everything I lacked and the father I didn't have and the aunts and the uncles that weren't there, I realized all that I had been given. I realized that a young teacher from the East Coast, Miss Freeman, she took me sailing for the first time. She took me to the snow for the first time. She took me hiking for the first time. A choir teacher by the name of Miss Keith, Colleen Keith, bless her heart, she's since passed, put a song in my heart. And I'll never forget her. A paraeducator and secretary by the name of Patsy Gray, who would always tell me, "Mijo, it's going to be okay. Mijo, you're going to do great things." Someone who would hug me in the midst of my anger. When I'd get so angry, I'd cry. When I would leave my principal's office or I'd get in trouble, she would say, "David, you're going to do great things. I know it." Every opportunity she had, she spoke words of life into me. Community workers that are with us today, Mr. Anthony Garcia, who took me deep sea fishing for the first time. Mr. David Plaza, who worked with me. Give him a round of applause. I tell the high schoolers he's working with now, shoot, you should have seen me. He had to get me in the 4th grade. Okay? Shoot. He's an amazing man. They both are. And Pastor Ken Menchaca. Let's get a round of applause for him too. He was a community worker that was not afraid to go into the barrios and not afraid to stand in the gap for the areas that were left on the back burner. He was a pioneer and ahead of his time. A middle school assistant principal, Miss Erdman, who gave me hope every time my middle school principal put me, every time. And I'll say that again, my middle school principal put me down. I would go to Miss Erdman's office and she would give me hope. A coach and a freshman studies teacher who I met in the 9th grade, Mr. Bob Costa. Those at Santa Fe, you know Coach Costa? Who never gave up on me. That man, he never gave up on me. He would drive and pick me up from my house to make sure that I got my 11th grade project done. I remember breaking his gear shifter while we were in the drive-thru at Jack in the Box, and he still tells the story. But that man did more for me than he will ever know. He never gave up on me. Dr. Margie Moriarty, who was a dean of students, who knew how to handle kids like me, who came from a background of juvenile delinquents, who gave me opportunity after opportunity. She showed me what grace is all about. Long before I learned about it in the Bible, she exemplified grace and forgiveness. And it was her that handed me my cap and gown my senior year, despite all the odds and all those who thought I wasn't going to make it. And Coach Jack Molstead, who came into my life and played a much-needed male figure to give me guidance and to guide me on the right track and to call me on my nonsense when I needed it. It was these people during my upbringing that stepped in for all that I had lacked. And even though they worked for different agencies, as I was preparing for this message today, I realized in the community that I had struggled and eventually thrived in this great city, these individuals were working in silos, yet they were unified under the same purpose. That there is no person too lost that cannot be found. That there is no child too broken that cannot be repaired. That there is no one person so hopeless that they cannot find purpose in their lives. And they lived it and they exemplified it, and because of them, I am the man I am today. Because of a mother who did not leave me, I am the man I am today. And I thank them. And one of you students, if you could do me a favor at Santa Fe, when you see Coach Costa, just tell him Skip loves him. He knows me by Skip. Tell him Skip loves him. It's always nice to hear it. You know, I've given a lot of messages. I've been very blessed in my time. But this hits home for me. Norwalk is a very special place. Norwalk is a place that my grandparents were able to achieve that American dream that is not dead, but is very much alive. Uneducated orphans with a 3rd grade education, orphaned in Chihuahua, Mexico, found each other not by chance, but by God. Traveled from Chihuahua to Juarez, from Juarez to El Paso, from El Paso to Delano, California, in the grape fields, working in the heat, traveling back and forth, till finally they were sent here to Norwalk, California in the 1950s. And it was a very different place, and a lot has changed. But my journey began with them. And to think from where they came, and 70 years later, Their grandson is the principal of Norwalk High School. That is a testament of the American dream. And that is a testament of the work that each and every one of you do every single day. I leave you with this. For all those that serve the public, remember, it is not just our responsibility, but we have joint ownership in speaking words of life. We have joint ownership in standing in the gap. We have joint ownership in going above and beyond for our communities and our future generations. May the love of God guard your hearts and the peace of Christ light your paths. Thank you.